Hello friends, I'm back with another lecture topic today. I will talk about India's Act East policy. Well, before starting, I would like you to subscribe for our YouTube channel. I hope that these videos are actually helping you. In order to encourage me to make more such type of videos, you should like the videos and share it as much as you can. Now I am going to start the introduction of India's Act East policy. As you know, it is the present NDA government who has decided to change the name of a key foreign policy approach that remained in currency since the days of P.V. Narasimha Rao government in 1990s. It is the time to not just look but to act. Hence, the Look East policy will now be known as the Act East policy. India's Act East policy represents its effort to cultivate extensive economic and strategic relations with the nations of Southeast Asia in order to bolster its standing as a regional power and a counterweight to the strategic influence of the People's Republic of China. Initiated in 1991, it marked a strategic shift in India's perspective of the world. It was developed and enacted during the government of Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao and rigorously pursued by the successive administration of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Manmohan Singh, and now Shri Narendra Modi. Now I will talk about its background. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 marked the end of the Cold War and also of the world order. The dynamics post the era saw a swift global reconstruction. The United States of America became the most powerful country in the world, and China emerged as the face of the East. A once underdeveloped country was on the path of becoming a global superpower. In a world that was rapidly globalizing, the Look East policy was a course correction in India's foreign policy. It was formally launched in 1990s by Narasimha Rao-led government when India sensed the change in the locus of world economic power from the west to the east as necessitated by the evolving geopolitics and trends in India and Asia Pacific. The aim was to review political ties, forge regional security cooperation, and develop economic linkage by increasing integration with Southeast Asia. Ever since the Sino-Indian War of 1962, China and India have been strategic competitors in South and East Asia. China has cultivated close commercial and military relations with India's neighbor and rival Pakistan and competed for influence in Nepal and Bangladesh also. After 1979, China started cultivating extensive trade and economic relations with Asian nations. In contrast, during the Cold War, India had a relatively hesitant relationship with many states in Southeast Asia, and diplomatic relations with Southeast Asia were given a relatively low priority. Hence, this policy was developed by India. Okay, I was telling that after 1979, China started its cultivation of extensive trade and economic relations with Asian nations. China at that time became the closest partner and support of the military junta of Burma. At that time, the military of Burma had been ostracized from the international community following the violent suppression of pro-democracy activities in 1988. Although India had traditionally supported Burma's pro-democracy movement for many years, but finally India's policy changed in 1993, making it friendly to the military junta of Burma. India signed trade agreements and increased investment in Burma. Although private sector activity remains slow, India's state corporations have landed lucrative contracts for industrial projects and the construction of major roads and highways, pipelines, and upgrading of ports in Myanmar. At that time, it was Burma. India had also increased its competition with China over the harnessing of Burma's significant oil and natural gas reserves, seeking to establish a major and stable source of energy for its growing domestic needs. countering Chinese monopoly over Burmese resources and reducing dependence on oil-rich Middle Eastern nations. Although China remains Burma's largest military supplier, India has offered to train Burma's military personnel and has sought their cooperation in curbing separatist militants and the heavy drug trafficking affecting much of the in northeast India. China's winning of contracts of natural gas in the Rakhine state and the development of naval and surveillance installation along Burma's coast and the Coco Islands has provoked great concern and anxiety in India, which has stepped up its investment in the port development, energy, transport, and military sectors. India has also established strong commercial, cultural, and military ties with the countries like the Philippines, Singapore, Vietnam, and Cambodia. India signed trade agreements with the countries Sri Lanka and Thailand to step up its military cooperation with them as well. It has also numerous free trade agreements with the countries like Japan, South Korea, and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations member states. Commerce with South and East Asian nations account for almost 45% of India's foreign trade. Ties have been strengthened with Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea over common emphasis on democracy, human rights, and strategic interest. As a matter of fact, South Korea and Japan remain amongst the major source of foreign investment in India, driven by the fact that more than 50% of India's trade passes through the Malacca Strait. The Indian Navy has established a Far Eastern Naval Command of Port Blair on Andaman and Nicobar Islands. India have also been conducting joint naval exercises with Singapore, which is known as SIMBEX, since 1993, with Vietnam also in 2000, and has engaged in joint patrol with Indonesia in the Andaman Sea since 2002. And along with USA, now Japan has also joined India in Malabar naval exercise. Japan and India were also members of the Tsunami Relief Regional Core Group in the Indian Ocean in 2004, along with Australia and the United States. Since then, many of such joint naval exercises have been conducted. India's Act East policy is cruising along on a higher trajectory after putting India South Asia diplomacy in high gear. India launched its first shipping service to Myanmar, connecting both nations under the Act East policy to boost bilateral ties. The Shipping Corporation of India and the Ministry of Shipping have launched a direct service to Myanmar for the first time. With the commencement of the service, the transit time for Indian exports and imports to Myanmar stand to reduce considerably. India has set up an Indian mission to the ASEAN in Jakarta and has also taken the decision to set up an ASEAN India Center for Trade and Investment. With the economies of India's and ASEAN growing and their energy needs growing up, another area that is bringing the two sides closer is the pursuit of maritime security and enhanced cooperation in combating terrorism and piracy. India has also offered more than 1100 scholarships to ASEAN countries under the Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation Program. India has backed fast-tracking a host of connectivity projects which will quicken regional integration and has supported the master plan on ASEAN Plus connectivity, that is called MPAC. The sectors which are a part of India Myanmar Thailand trilateral highway is progressing well. The completion of this project is poised to create a new dynamic extension of this highway to Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. Its further linkage with ports in Asian country and its integration with models like special economic zones also. Many East Asian economies like Singapore, Malaysia, and China have excessive savings and find investment opportunities in India promises. India's young and skilled labor force is internationally competitive, and also a counterpoint to East Asia's aging societies. India's sectoral strength appeals to East Asia, which is looking for trade and investment opportunities in the services sector. East Asia has found India strong in information technology, services, construction, fishery, food processing, resources, capital, technology, manpower, knowledge, and tourism. Now, coming to the conclusion, the road and rail connectivity to energy giants like Nepal and Myanmar and further to Thailand will improve people to people connect, and thus it will enhance the sphere of economic cooperation and interdependence of the countries. The highly underdeveloped northeast states of India, which lie at the gateway of a region offering unlimited economic opportunities, will witness an economic transformation because they are very close to the South Asian part. With the proper institutional framework, the trade is enhancing between the countries, and it is expected that the trade with ASEAN will cross over $100 billion by the end of 2016, and the figures will be doubled by 2025. Most of the Asian countries and Japan are projecting a tough stance towards China's aggression and expansion nature, design of unlawfully encroaching upon land and maritime territories of other countries. It has already disputes over certain issues. It is being increasingly felt that the monopoly and expansion of China's military might can only be checked through a collective stand. In order to limit India's regional dominance, China has adopted a policy of string of pearls to isolate and intimidate India by expanding its area of influence around India's territorial extremities. Hence, forming a strategic partnership with the anti-China camp will largely weaken China's aggressive posture. This is perhaps the strongest reason for India to pursue its Act East policy. So friends, this is all what I would like to share with you in this topic. I hope that this is informative and also helpful to you. To like the video, share it, and also subscribe to the channel. Thank you everyone for listening.